Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPaWrites here again, and the First Descendant just got a massive update called Breakthrough. That is the first update for Season 3, and it packs in a ton of content. But the question remains, is it worth jumping back in to the First Descendant if you are a lapsed player, or checking out for the first time if you've never played before? And this is a complicated question that I don't think can be answered a simple yes or no. A lot of it has to do with what you're trying to get out of the First Descendant and what kind of content you will ultimately enjoy. Personally, I had fun with the new content, but I don't know if it's enough to keep me playing long term, which has always been my major question mark with this game. I will jump back when they have new updates. I will play for a few weeks and see what there is to do, and then I will tail off and then wait for the next big change to come. And that's something that I don't know if the game can fully fix going forward, especially if they're not going to completely overhaul the way they deliver content and the type of content we're getting, although there are some pretty massive changes with this update that I think head in the right direction. Now, some of the new things with the Breakthrough update: there's a new Descendant Nell, that's pretty standard. We got 2 new ultimate weapons, again, nothing too crazy there. They are actually pretty good, especially the Exterminator is very fun. Then we've got the hover bike. This is a very different mechanic. That's essentially the Sparrow if you play Destiny 2, where you can summon it at any point when you are in the Axion Plains and then travel around like that. There's also a new Void Abyss Intercept battle called the Stormhanger that is quite interesting. There's the new episode story content. There's also the Axion Plains, which I mentioned. And this is where I think it's a little hit or miss for me, because this is a new location where there's going to be open battlefield. Essentially, there's going to be a field colossus called the Wall Crasher, who you can fight while you are just roaming around with other players. And that seems very interesting, but it does feel like Axion Plains is still somewhat empty and lacking the vibrance that you would hope for with an open world location with the expected like 10 to 20, whatever the case may be, players that you might see as you roam around and interact with all of them. So I think that's one of the major issues that I have with the game, is ultimately it doesn't feel MMO light or looter shooter enough where I feel like I'm constantly engaging with random players, and that's one of the major downsides. Now, that is happening more often with Axion Plains, so it's not the end of the world with this update, but it is something that I want to see more of personally. We also got external components, Arc Trigger, Descendant Boost Up and Path, and then we got Descendant Rebalances with a bunch of Descendants as well. So your favorite, if you haven't not played for quite some time, might be buffed or nerfed in the time that you've been away from the game. They also added Jiggle Physics, which a lot of people love, not really for me, but they do have the crossover with Nier as well, with some outfits for some of the female characters. And so a lot of new content to check out that I think is quite good for those players who are still hyped about the game, who are still really enjoying themselves with the First Descendant. I just don't think these content updates do enough for those people who are jumping into the game sporadically, but I don't know if that's something that they can actually change without some overhauling of a lot more of the game, like the way the dungeons work, having full-blown raids, having content that is endlessly replayable and really difficult endgame content that's not just Void Abyss Intercept battles. And yeah, I think that's one of the major issues. The Field Colossus, in my opinion, is probably the best part of this update. It's my favorite thing. I do feel like the Axion Plains, some of the different missions and everything, feel pretty similar to what we've seen in the past. So nothing too groundbreaking there. It is the Field Colossus that is the main focus. But yeah, I think the game is in a pretty good spot overall. if you're still enjoying yourself, I fully understand why. If you're a player who hasn't played in 4 or 5 months, I definitely think coming back and experiencing all of the new content, like I said, there's a ton of new story content that's been released over the last several months that, while the story isn't the best in my opinion, it also isn't terrible. It is definitely one that would be fun to experience if you do enjoy the lore of the game. It's fairly complex. There's been some interesting things happen with some of the characters and the way you interact with them. I do worry because it does feel like we're in a never-ending loop that will never get like a satisfying conclusion to some of these storylines, which is a bit of a bummer, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, there's a lot going on that I think is very, very interesting, very fun, and overall some nice quality of life changes as well. Hopefully they can continue to improve on this stuff. I know the player-based numbers have been quite up and down over the last few months, and that is going to, I think, be a continuing trend. I do worry a little bit once we get Borderlands 4 that a lot of looter shooter players will jump off the game they're currently playing, whether it is Destiny 2, whether it's Warframe, whether it's the First Descendant, and then head to that game. I know that's going to be my main looter shooter for the foreseeable future, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case for a lot of other people as well, as that's the next big shiny thing. But again, this update I think is worth checking out for most people, even if you only enjoy it for a short amount of time. It is a completely free update for everyone, so you can enjoy the storyline, you can try out the Axion planes, you can try out the Wall Crasher Field Colossus, all of that kind of good stuff, and not have to spend a dime unless you buy some of the cosmetics or if you buy the various the battle pass as well, which I think is pretty solid overall. I was looking through that as well. It is not a bad battle pass. I've been fairly spoiled with the battle pass for Marvel Rivals, which I've been playing a lot of, and that thing is absolutely insane with some of the skins and everything you get. So I do feel like there are levels to this, but the First Descendants overall, the battle pass is not bad. It does provide an ultimate weapon that is fully leveled up that I think is pretty valuable, especially because they seem to be getting better over the course of time with the battle pass weapon, so that is very nice. And overall, again, I think this is a game that is very enjoyable for what it is. Maybe it doesn't keep you around forever. Maybe it doesn't have you really grinding it to the same degree that maybe Prime Destiny or Prime The Division had you grinding. Even Warframe will have you grinding, but it is a fun downtime game in my opinion. There is some high upside with the end game content and challenging yourself to beat some of these very difficult bosses. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What are you enjoying about the latest update? Have you come back to the game at all? Is it not for you anymore? I'd love to see what everyone thinks. Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video as always. Comment, subscribe. Have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.